Excellent.
Perfect. I'm thrilled that Jose went first because I actually would love to use that video. Could I use that video in all the conversations that I have with CEOs and CTOs and trying to understand what quantum is all about? I had the honor yesterday of talking to the Board of Trustees for the foundation, and I notice a number of them are here today. And we talked about the current state of quantum computing. The organization that I lead, the Quantum Strategy Institute, is a not-for-profit organization, a think tank of about 20 experts from around the world who are focused, and their mission is the adoption, the accelerated adoption of quantum technologies, but not through hype, through a balanced, iterative, incremental approach, because the people that we are looking to serve are the consumers, the end users, the people who will be applying quantum technology inside their organizations. And based on the conversation or the presentation that Jose gave, that is a very difficult thing to do. And I'll give you an example. The title of this forum is The Silent Revolution of Quantum and AI. It is a silent revolution in a number of different ways. Can you imagine the percentage of companies that are actually talking about quantum today in 2022? It is a very low percentage, even though you see some of these surveys or studies coming out saying 66% or 74%. In reality, the people that I'm talking to aren't even talking about quantum. And what does that mean? It means that there are going to be some companies that are going to grab a competitive advantage very quickly. Whenever the first question and the most frequent question they ask me is, when quantum? When is it going to happen? And if you give them an answer that has an X number of years, 2 to 5 to 10 years, guess what their reaction is? Okay, we'll wait, and we'll start working on it then. But what's the challenge with that? How long does a digital transformation take? Today, we've gone through a number of 2 to 5 years, 10. Thierry and I had a great conversation, Thierry Bauteur, who is the executive director of the European Quantum Consortium. Close enough, okay? And we talked about how long it's going to take to implement quantum inside your company. Now think about all the possibilities there. You have to gain the talent. You have to understand the integration with your classical systems. You have to understand where your classical systems are going to continue versus where those quantum systems are going to play in those really difficult challenges for that company. This could be well over 10 years if you're a large entity with lots of already existing integrated classical technology. So from the silent perspective, not enough companies are talking about quantum for their longer-term success. So that is very much part of what the Quantum Strategy Institute is doing. The second part of the silent aspect is something we're seeing that I didn't see in the evolution of AI. We're starting to see a lot more diversity, and by that I mean women in STEM, and I'm thrilled. So I work with a group, Girls in Quantum, led by Elisa Torres-Durney from Chile, a 17-year-old working with other high school students talking about quantum. And now, I know when I was in high school, I certainly wasn't talking about quantum, but these are wonderful people who are actually thinking about quantum in their own specific way, and they are creating a new generation. But we don't hear enough about them. We don't hear enough about the work that they do. The other silent part is whenever I have a conversation with a CEO or a CTO and I start talking about quantum and AI, guess what their response is? So you're layering a black box on top of another black box. Two things that I don't necessarily understand. So there's major challenges in bringing organizations up to speed. Now, it's not impossible. I, as a former banker, 25 years in banking, retired, left banking, and thought about the technologies that I wanted to work with. First one was artificial intelligence, so I went to MIT. I did their AI strategy program. and their phone started to ring. People started to say, how can I get AI into my roadmaps? And this was 5 years ago. As soon as I started into quantum, the same thing started to happen. So it's interesting that we're actually seeing some early participants, and not just large corporates. So the silent aspect is really a challenge that we need to address. So lots of great presentations over the next 2 days talking about certain aspects of quantum, whether it's sociological, environmental, business aspects. But there is so much work to be done with regular organizations and telling them about quantum and what its possibilities are. 10 years in a large organization is within the planning realm, so they need to be thinking about those things. One of the things that certainly gives me hope is this aspect of how quantum is evolving. So we have 3 different realms, let's call it quantum-inspired, hybrid, and pure native. The exciting part is always the pure native, what's going on with breakthroughs, and breakthroughs are happening every week, which is another challenge for those people who are interested in quantum. How do you keep up to date? But when we think about quantum-inspired, using elements of quantum in classical environments, we're already seeing results. And from Spanish companies like Multiverse. So Esperanza here is representing both Multiverse and QSI, thank you. And they're already doing some interesting things with particularly financial institutions with quantum-inspired solutions. And it's just not getting enough press. We need to have people thinking, certainly in the C-suite area, thinking about how those opportunities in quantum-inspired can actually generate new opportunities for them. So portfolio optimization, for example, is one of those opportunities, even using quantum-inspired. And I know I'm not talking about the leading edge of quantum, breakthroughs and so on. But when you think about all the challenges that Jose talked about, right? Imagine putting that into your planning process. When I had the opportunity to talk to Alessandro from IBM, we were talking about not separating quantum and AI, thinking about the underlying infrastructure and the algorithms that fit on top of that. So if you're a CTO in an organization, and I talk to many of them all the time, they're asking me those questions. When quantum? When should I actually think about this on my roadmap? And so we are very much giving them that comparison to digital transformation. Think about how long it took you to transform your business digitally. Think about how long that's going to take in a quantum environment. So the last aspect that I want to talk about is Spain. So one of the action items that we talked about at the very beginning with Francis was to use this forum to generate action plans. I have the benefit with QSI to talk to people globally on a weekly basis and find out what's going on. Next week, I've got an interview with India. I did some work in Toronto, Canada with the IBM Deep Tech Conference. And there's a lot of interest in those various different areas. When I finished writing Quantum Boost, which is my second last book, about quantum and just getting people very much an introductory level understanding. Can you imagine which market, and by translating it into 4 languages, thank you Esperanza, by the way, can you imagine which language is the most popular? Spanish. I was very surprised, even more so than English. There were people buying this book in Spanish to learn about quantum and the introduction to it. So that made me think about my next book, which was Quantum Excellence, and again, we're going to translate that into Spanish to give people examples of how leading companies are deploying quantum technology. So the opportunities within Spain, and I wrote a Substack on this morning, because we see so many experts in this country, because it's multi-language, because there have already been some investment, and I understand new planned investment, as well as this passion for this subject, which I see much more broadly, I think Spain is well positioned for its future in quantum. Certainly there are some challenges, but I'm motivated and inspired by this forum to see what comes out of the 2 days of conversations, and very much hope that the QSI, our Quantum Strategy Institute, can actually help with the implementation of some of those ideas. So I'm going to give 5 minutes back to the team. We can ask some questions.
Maybe you want to take a seat, and then Artur, you could speak, and feel free to speak from there, wherever you're comfortable.
So
and then
thank
we
you
can
for
have
your time.
questions from everybody, and thank you very much.